Yep, 2 songs. Don't Look Back in Anger, which is a statement, and We Go On, which is another. And that's what we must do. Final piece tonight is another alt media exposure. And this incident has been going on for months, in fact, practically since the start. And certain people taking advantage of the generous people making donations to fulfill not humanitarian programs or restoration plans, but to line certain people's pockets. Now, first we had the UN channel at Life Force, and it was all happening in a few weeks. 2 weeks, well, except 2 weeks went on like Drake. And months went by, and another channel emerged, UNC. And Tank on one show asked for $9,000 and that they would open the channel within 2 weeks. Then another channel emerged, UNN, and more people got fired, this time a more high-profile one, Ava Cowan, which is the second time Kim had brought her into the team and the second time she was cast aside. Now, during the gaps between the 3 named channels, the channels were being registered to people under ownership that at no point in time, I believe, was connected to Kim Go-Goon. That is a staggering oversight on her part again. Remember, according to Kim, Source told her to create an internet TV channel. That was not Source, that was the AI god. But Kim has a major listening problem, and possibly due to the voice-to-head technology she was wearing back then, but it's not an excuse now. That's been gone since July. So Source tells her to make and run her own Portal People channel, but someone else would have the 100% ownership rights to it. Does that make any sense? No. Then it's a program then, isn't it? And 2 people who Kim treats like her pet puppets, I'm told, not my words, other people, Alan, James, Circle of White Light, and more so Liam, are facilitating it. Why wouldn't they help Kim in several matters that puts her reputation and standing in bad light? They both took the opportunity with glee to jump into my shoes and work closely with Kim, regardless of the friendship we had built up. Yet, like Tank also, they all forgot the protection and support afforded to Kim that I provided. Do you really think Kim would be in this inescapable mess if I was still in place? The answer is no. But then the ones who replaced me, Tank, Alan and Liam, are to blame for the current mess and now rendering the trustee a laughingstock. And that is not a throwaway remark. I've heard it from several high-up sources. She's looked upon as a laughingstock. But will Alan and Liam be man enough to admit they made a mistake and come and help rebuild the People's Club? Time will tell on them. And it's not that Kim is innocent in all of this either. Ego does terrible things to people, and some seem oblivious to their actions and subsequently the consequences. Now, this is part of a report I was sent this week called the GIA Internal Investigation. And this is George, known as the Viking on their show, who I have spoken to a couple of times in the past, the last being around May of last year. And he was asked to do something by Kim, and this is what unfolded. Now, to give further background of the shenanigans of Life Force, perhaps a reminder of just a few of the serious allegations made by their own members, not THI, their own members, of actions within that group. 1. The assemblies are infiltrated by unknown GIA agents. 2. One assembly is running a criminal child operation. 3. GIA, whose head is Kim, sent FBI agents to threaten one of their members to shut up. 4. Members closely involved were asked to sign a non-disclosure statement. 5. Members being forced to sign contracts to work with them. 6. Alleged money was taken by Tank out of the Lawful America account, $25,000. 7. Alleged money was used for Tank's Reno trip out of the Life Force account. And 8. Like all the previous, both Kim and Tank were warned of it and ignored it all. 8. She was told 3 times her assemblies were unlawful and putting their members at risk. Now, to date, my input into Kim Go-Goon was never personal, only about her business decisions and poor treatment of her followers, as just reference with the 8 reminders. Plus throw in the funding of the takeover of the Fed by the Black Sun Group. Subsequent funding was used to lock down all Americans. And she gave large funds to the Pentagon, who are heavily involved with the COVID scam via DARPA. And then she gave more funds to Trump, and the same day he launched the vaccines. That is her legacy of the past 12 months. Now, this is George's input. There was an argument that went on, and he said, no, the issue was with Tank, which I was not aware of until last night, that Tank owns UNN 100%. Kim only gets what he decides to keep her in room and board only conditions. And George says this is a far cry from what I was told before. The UNC was set up as source wanted, with 51% always going to help the people globally and 49% to Kim and Stephen Rosen for them and admin costs and support. My comments on that: Kim only gets what Tank decides. Is this the Kim we all remember? Now, the room and board part is correct, as Kim has no source of income. But the other line intrigued me. 49% of the funds going to 2 people and 51% to $7.5 billion. How does Source reckon on that? And the great question is, was Source trained at the Johns Hopkins Math Center? George carried on. The problem came with the change of the name to UNN, and I was told it was a simple name change, and that was all, until last night discovering that Tank had virtually stolen the whole damn thing from the previous people, including Kim. He went on, it gets even better. as Kim approved me to make changes in their, quote, crumbling internal structure, unquote, which George did, and most everyone was extremely happy about and relieved that finally someone was able to provide them all with badly needed assistance. Most of all of that was due to the few called Tank's core team, who were abusing the hell out of everyone to the point of some almost walking out of the door from UNN. Then when everything blows up, I'm told that UNN is not part of the GIA or the restoration plan, and that it was a separate business of Tank and Tank alone. Therefore, I was interfering with something that was none of my business, I was told, and I guess rightly so, since I wasn't informed Kim had nothing to do with the UNN business other than always being a special guest for Tank. My comments? So the trustee, Eve, and the dozen other titles person is now a lackey for the failed RV man. The trustee bowing down to a man who acts like a used car salesman, really. Oh, how the mighty has fallen. The same failed RV man who told Kim in February 2020, you are a woman and no one will listen to you. And because you are a woman, you should hand over the role as trustee to Tank. Too funny, Tank. The chances of you ever reaching the parameters required to do that role are 0. Or to use a classic Kim quote, less than 0. Now, some people thought Tank wanted my job, and to a degree he did. But I knew 3 years ago it was her job he wanted, and who was putting him up to it, and so did Kim. But guess what? Kim's non-listening program kicked in again. Not once, but several times. George went on and said, I reminded them that had I been informed and known that, I would never begin corrective measures, which Kim gave me approval for and now denies. My comment, a common theme that for Kim. When things go wrong, she vehemently denies it and only points fingers away from her. George then said, then of course she's on a hot spot with Tank, whatever that means. So I guess she had to claim that I was lying, and that's when everything went to hell in a handbasket. My comment, further confirmation that Kim is unable to do or say anything without Tank's approval. And this is exactly how I portrayed the split up last May. Someone or something put her up to this, and someone has her over a barrel. That person is Tank. But don't think it's just him. He is the front puppet for a larger group connected to rogue military and agencies, and he is incapable of pulling this off himself. George says now all of this transpired via a conference call between the three of us, which ended up with the two of them screaming at me until my phone battery died and immediately put me offline. Yes, I've heard that. Kim and her screaming is a common theme. Wrath is her deadly sin, and she has failed to address it. And maybe the real source should have told her to address that before becoming a portal people person. George said by the time the phone was recharged enough to reboot and I could get the hotspot plugged back into the computer to get online, that's when I found Kim laying all this stuff out in our business work threads for all to see, making their claims of me supposedly lying, of which you have the copy of the transcripts, and from that point to the end when she ran out of steam. Again, this is similar to what she did in the MeWe chat, a volley of accusations, none of which were true, and when questioned, she ran off. Now, Kim, like many other people, can call me whatever they like. I know different. But the sheer contempt and disdain she had for our members that day is what bothers me most. It was shameful. And yet some of our members went over to join her after that, seduced by the Saviour, Money and Fame programme again. But for 4 years, our members loved her, supported her, encouraged her, and in part financed her. And she dismissed all that in one of her classic wrath episodes. And for what? All to be a pet poodle for Tank? Oh dear. George says, now with the evidence presented of their accusations of me lying, it's near impossible not to see and understand that it was they who were perpetrating this facade, doing all the lying and poorly at that for anyone to come to any other conclusion. However, they rule by absolute fear, hate and animosity towards all people below the core team of Tank, Kim, Lisa, Lane and Vera, of which Vera played the most minimal part, and out of sheer fear of Tank has been relinquished to a more quiet position. I have heard several reports to support the fear, hate and animosity to their own members, to support that claim. But George says, does this sound like people working with source protocols to you? Well, George, you got hung out to dry like I did. Perhaps that is something called karma. You made your choice and you backed the wrong horse. George then says these are the protocols of the deep state Black Sun occult hierarchy, and then says, why do I say this evil thing, you may ask? Because prior to my phone battery dying, they were both screaming at me that they had an important appointment coming up by mid-month with the MK Looking Glass, which is an MK Ultra occult mind control program. They even had to add just how important it was, and that it has always been a standing appointment for them every year, which they cannot miss under any circumstances. Which also means they've been under this influence all along as enablers of the occult Black Sun activities. There are numerous problems with this, of course, but two quite serious ones. MK Ultra Looking Glass was the most evolved mind control program. Then they integrated that with the occult sciences, and now trying an en masse initiation with all who will follow them. Eventually you would end up under the Jesuit protocols. The dangers come when a few occult groups may unite to break through into the minds of our 3D world, and that is what MK Looking Glass was all about. That was George. I find that deeply concerning, and why she is in big trouble I warned of recently. She has become another fallen angel statistic, with the common slide of the unbalanced ego, has taken its toll again. But then, after Kim found out, after near 5 years of me telling her Trump was not an ally, Kim's wrath on Trump and then states Trump is Black Sun, which she was told dozens of times previously, and these Black Sun associates around her seems to mount up, and the obvious questions being asked now is she one of them? Now, throughout my time with Kim, we had very few disagreements. I had a number of frustrations after I told her several things and she didn't listen. But eventually she did in her own way. Except one particular incident. Kim told me she was designated to build a lab in a town not far from here and work with her now known handler boyfriend, who was a chemist. He was picked out in the looking glass technology to be the guy who invented time travel. Kim and him were going to invent time travel, and I vehemently disagreed. In fact, I told her that lab would be destroyed with him and her in it if need be. The only people who would benefit from time travel are the dark forces, to loop us back in time and the loops, and I told her quite clearly that will not be happening. The alt media is riddled with scam artists, agency miscreants and bullshit merchants that I find very sad. And not necessarily a surprise given the old system's control of all media, but it's the damage done to the people that concerns me. This is why I expose it. And some will see it as a continued tiff between Kim and I, but I can assure you the tiff was only one-sided and appeared then as manufactured. Now that theory looks more correct by the day. There was no tiff. Kim went on an unprovoked, wrath-based rant and denigrated all men, including me. In fact, she threw me in the same category as her former boyfriend, who was employed to be her handler, and his handler, both of whom were CIA and Black Sun operators, which again she was warned of much earlier. But the listening problem she has blocked it until it became obvious to even her. Now, she talks much about her love of her daughter, and that's genuine. Yet she selfishly seems oblivious to the dangers she's putting her child in, inviting Blackwater mercenaries and other strange people to her home and putting her child in great danger. And for what? A TV channel and recognition? Look at how important I am. And she forgets before May of last year, we did important things, not act important. Big difference. I reached out to help her via back channels again this week because of my concern for her and her daughter's safety, and yet again it was dismissed. And at this point it appears Ms. Goguin is only interested in herself, oblivious to the damage she has done, oblivious to the dangers to her child, oblivious that her reputation with heads of state and other departments is now shot, oblivious to the friendships she has destroyed, oblivious to the good people who helped her and dismissed it like an arrogant goddess of the past. Her ability to engage the quantum system is now mute. She revealed that in several comments in her shows, if you can read between the lines. The mere mention of the Omega system she is working with tells you that, but there were plenty of other hints. I said in October, the saviour bandwagon of Trump, Q and the trustee are a month away from irrelevance, despite my hopes it would work for all three of them. But do people still believe that October statement was wrong? And this is another example of why we need to build the TPC and get away from these shysters harvesting funds and ideas off of good people under false pretences. Good people being led astray by the saviour and dangling carrots technique, a weight club of promises, none of which were ever fulfilled. And move away from the seedy, self-serving, harvesting alt media and a focus of what we're doing to build a new future. This is our task. All of us to encourage all alt media to join the TPC platform. It is your group for survival, prosperity, a voice, a safety net. You can wait for the trust or pool our resources and build our own. I would love nothing more than to see the alt media en masse join the People's Club and become a force together. Not because I designed or created the People's Club or for people to follow THI, because the TPC doesn't belong to me. It's your platform, your movement, and your responsibility to make it thrive for us all. THI gave you all the background of how to improve yourself and also a whole gamut of dot connecting most thought was not possible to make or connect. But we've already done that. So now you all know who, what, when and why was the problem. Your task now is to provide the solutions. But the TPC is not a social group, it is a working group. And all of us have to engage and work towards a better future. A line from Tuesday's show says it all. We own the Republicans and we own the Democrats. And that is correct. But what they don't own is we the people or the People's Club unless we allow it. That is our ticket out of this mess. The ending song is to us all, but perhaps the person dominant in this last piece needs to listen and act on it. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. Bye for now.